member NHAI and CGM's NHAI and Principal Secretary PWD Himachal. First of all, I would like to take the opportunity to thank NHAI for inviting me to share my experiences with all of you. I think many of you I know, we have been working with NHAI closely, particularly in landslide and slope stabilization project. I am basically a earth scientist and have been working on landslide for last plus 30 years, and particularly in Himalayas. So when I was kind of preparing the presentation, I thought it would be very difficult in 45 minutes to 1 hour to talk everything about the landslide. So to my experience, what are the gaps between the very able engineering fraternities and the ground situations, so that we can kind of take the advantage of this discussion and note for the future, so that we can rectify the things. Now in the morning session, Manoj ji, the member NHAI and chairman, also has mentioned very important things. One is within NHAI, and I really like that statement. Within NHAI, people are very intelligent, I would say that. And if within NHAI you work together, you can solve any problem. That I have seen actually, we have worked with the people. But there should be a little bit of kind of understanding we should talk about. Now, in between when I am talking, I wish you all to see these kind of videos. I wish that if Madam also sees. Now this probably many of you might have seen. The point of showing these videos in the first slide is that they are not isolated phenomena. They are very frequent visited phenomena in highways in the Himalayan region. Whether you talk about JNK, whether you talk about Uttarakhand, Himachal, any region. So this is very important that we have to take care of these things. And most of these things, except the one which is from Himachal, where the bridge has collapsed, most of them are on the highways, which are, inadvertently, I would say, that has the creation of a war. So how to avoid those kind of things, I think I'll try to kind of speak to that. Now I'll not spend much time on what is the sequence and so on and so forth. And I'll also skip, because of the want of time. I know that there is a constant of time. So I'll skip initially the introductory slide and this density of landslide all around. And that the infrastructure should be adequately managed to all the time. Now, how that can be done? Okay, let us think about issues. Then people should be well informed about the risk. Now, I'll have underlined this. How the people will come to know about the risk. Previous speaker from LMT has spoken something about identification of hazards and risks. So very important things. But how I would tell people that where are the risks? That is, first we have to identify those risks on the highways. Then only we can do. And how we can identify those risks? That is the kind of gap which we so far is maintaining actually. So we will talk about that. Understandable guidelines. Now these guidelines on avoiding the risk, on managing the risk, on transferring risk, so on and so forth, will also be possible when we already are able to identify the risk on the highways. This seems to be a very complicated slide. Yes. Anybody can interpret and ask me a question about it. I would like to kind of give a feel to the people, because all we are engineering minds here. I am from the earth sciences, and I would like to focus your attention towards the criticality or peculiarities of Himalayas. As you see here, all through the Himalayas, do we have pointer? Do we have pointer? How this form and that and all this kind of. But right from, somebody mentioned about Shivaliks. Right from Shivaliks to the greater Himalayas, when we go upward, each physiographic unit has different characteristics. So Shivalik has it has different flora, fauna, vegetation, soil, rock, everything, slopes, so on and so forth. When you go central Himalaya or lesser Himalayas, they are different. Higher Himalaya is different. But our design of highway is same. Right? That is where we have to really be a little bit kind of proactive to think about that the same design. Of course, for example, I give double lane plus paved shoulder is fine. This is an approved common design that we have to have these kind of roads all through. That's fine. But how the contractors implements, he will say the black and white is double lane with paved shoulder. Whether condition allows there or not, he will still go for it. These are the kind of problems we are kind of experiencing when we construct the highways all through these kind of different kind of physiographic divisions with different kind of characteristics. So this probably in this figure you have seen, we have different topography, elevation, relief, aspect, drainage, everything is different in different physiographic units. And therefore, if design is same, sorry, I have to do here, then only it will come there, or I can do that. So anyway, all these variation and variables are required to be considered during the planning and design and construction. Because if we are not doing that, now how we will do that? Because when we are giving for preparation of DPR, the person or the agency which works on DPR must have a kind of background knowledge of these kind of things. This is one important thing. This very good work done on the quality of roads and structure by NHAI all through India, all through Himalayas. If you travel, world-class roads are there. Why we are time and again failed only because of the slopes. So slopes are not integrated with road infrastructure. How to do that? Okay, we'll discuss that. I think we will. Now, as I told about the Himalayas, the peculiarities, all these bands are divided by certain plates. They are tectonic in origin. So Himalaya, basically, we are talking on Himalayas right now, including J&K. So we will not talk about the hills for the time being, though problems in other hills are also same. But Himalaya is basically tectonic in nature. This is young mass, this is still active, this is still dynamic, and this is still rising. So we should have that background knowledge. Here rivers are not mature, but we may discuss later on. So the Himalaya, apart from these lateral divisions all through the Himalayas, we have subsidiary thrust and faults all through the hills of Himalaya. And all our roads goes through these. So if I give you some example of, for example, this Kalyasur landslide near Srinagar in Uttarakhand on Badrinath highway, that is NH58 or NH7 now probably. So there are, as you see there, these red spots, these are all landslides. And the linear structure, what you see here, these are the thrust and faults, but they have not been foreseen, they have not been kind of, if I talk, this is the landslide which is more than 5 decades old now, more than 5 decades old, and still it is there. Now it's being bypassed in the Chardham Pariyojana, that also I will discuss. So this is controlled by the structure called Kalyasur thrust or fault. So what is happening actually, because it is a tectonic landmass, So because of these lateral thrust or faults or plates, whatever you call it, this mass is already shattered, already fractured. Only what you have to see that we capture them during our preparation of the repair. There's nothing else. So this is one thing which is very important to take it. Apart from, Madam also and member also has mentioned about these things. Climate change now is the reality. And we have done a small study that again in Nepal, Himalaya, where the extreme events are increasing day by day. Earlier extreme events was very, only thing that we have to capture that. And here on the base of this particular slope there was a camp for Mansarovar Yatris, and 260 people got buried alive in this incident. Now this was a very famous, because Pratima Bedi, one famous dancer of India, was also involved in that. The point of showing is that when you construct the highway, these things are captured. They are very easily to be captured. Nothing much has to be done. It's a very easy task. Only you require expertise who will kind of tell the people that how to do it. It's very simple. And it's not that, because there is a problem. Because Madam is there, so I have to speak. First time I am getting a chance to speak to Madam. And she is in the driving seat. So the point is that in our country, overall, there is a lack of knowledge. For example, I am a geologist or a scientist. I don't have knowledge of engineering. Engineer doesn't have knowledge of the subject which is required, right? So there should be require a balance of kind of background knowledge which is required for design of the highways. These are all highways, on national highways only. The near Badrinath Dham, all these areas, they are anticipated. I mean, the engineers working there, they know that these are the problems and they anticipate these kind of problems. But still we go. So we have to probably change a little bit of that approach. In spite of going for how to avoid the problem, we are really sometimes trying to, whatever compulsory. I don't know. I mean, this is your domain of thinking that what compulsory, in spite of anticipating the things, we are still going for that. Other is soil slopes. I'll take 1 minute here in the sense that, as I already told, that most of the, if not most, maybe more than 50% of the highways go very close to, in areas, very close to the rivers. Now, if 50 years back we have constructed roads, now the scenario because of the climate change has changed. You might have noticed that the majority of those highways are being damaged because of the frequent flash floods and floods. So what the thinking we have to change is that we have to go a little bit mid-rise areas, or we have to think about the frequent floods, how to manage those. We said this the highways. This is very important. Now these incidences are very repeatedly occurring all over Himalaya. So we have to probably think about those kind of things. See, it's commendable. I mean, I should congratulate you could really commendable job. And when that kind of commendable job is done, certainly there will be some gaps. And this is not really very surprising. These gaps. Only thing is that when we know this, I think better to kind of think and be a proactive site. Again, in Himalayas, this is not frequent. This is not hidden rather from the people sitting here and from anybody. That subsidence and creep is continuous in Himalaya. But we have to construct the highways all through those subsidence and creep sites. Could there be a better way of planning? We have to think about it. I am not telling about further on this. Now somebody had mentioned about the internal lot of water and this being now diverted to use for social fertilization. That's a very good option. But on highways, we are so far not kind of doing that practice. I think, I wish that if the same thing what is being done in the tunnel is also being done in the highways. Because more than 60% of the population, other 70 of hill areas is dependent on these water sources. Springs, small springs and streams. And when we construct, 70 plus 1,000 kilometer of highway already is on, and more will come. More will come. So naturally these water streams will come into. I think it will be very good step forward with the benefit of the society if we also include those. It doesn't cost at all, I am telling you. Only thing is that if it is planning stage, it is thought it's very easy to manage those also along the way. So this will be a very good step forward. I already told about that this small glacial lake, glacial streams, they become huge problem, and you can see here, this is again certain light picture they are not. All these are glacial streams. When there is no rainy season or spring melting season, they work fine. There is no problem. The moment is rainy season and spring melting season, they are all full of debris, and the highways are damaged. And this is very frequent. We have to think a little bit proactively. One example I would like to give you to the Lambagar. Many people must be knowing it's only 18 kilometers behind before Badrinath. This is again 3-4 decades old landslide. This is all moraine, that is glacial deposits. And what is bad practice? BRO, somebody is there from BRO? So, you should not be upset. From BRO?
But now working in NHAI.
Khuran Zab, I know you.
Yeah.
No, but you are working somewhere.
Yeah.
But BRO people should not, if they should not get upset. I always tell this kind of story. Point is that it's not their fault. Because these are strategic highways and border areas. So they should not be closed. 24 hours they should work. So that is one thing. So what happens actually when road is constructed, landslide happens, general practice is that cut other side. Right? And that practice continues. Now if we continue that practice, we will never be stabilized. Kalasword was one example I have shown you, only because of the small practice. Cut double sides, okay, fine, we'll forget about it. This will not work that way now because we are now entering into inaccessible, challenging area. Because we don't have much land now. So we have to kind of go to each village and all this. From NHAI, this is a very important organization. This is again want of time. I know that most of the people are so busy, so they can probably not spend. But at least you can write and send it to IRC. They will certainly, they also value the experience of NHAI. So this is also required, again, very important. How much time I have, Amrinder ji?
You cover briefly the solution available that we are interested in. Try to help.
Okay, so I have little time. I will go quickly.
Probable solution for all.
I'll do that, yes, sure. So, anyway, ma'am, only last one. Slope management should be made inseparable part of highway slope. Now, this is always my request and also always my kind of underlining. What is happening, ma'am, if I say, when I say you permit me, that we have very good highway infrastructure being today. Highways are marvelous, world class. But our engineers not thinking about the slopes. Slope maintenance is left aside.
Much finer. It is 1:10 and 1:5 centimeters. Oh, I don't know. It's that fine. So if there is any, they should go to NRSC and get those maps. There's absolutely no problem.
Actually, that's what we have said.
We can enter into an MOU with NRSC, and in fact, 2017 तक का data is available online free of cost, and I guess that should be fair enough for us because that itself is pretty good. 1:40 का share freely available है, and after that the final resolution is available at some cost. We can work on this and we can have an MOU with NRSC.
Exactly. This is what solution is here. That's what I wanted to suggest also. Because we have plenty of such opportunities available. And ma'am, in every state capital they have a IIS created. And that's only for the purpose of assisting the states. And if you say that A point to B point alignment is required, they will involve your people also. And their charges also CPU unit they charge. I mean, charges is not a worry, but they charge very less. As Madam said, the data, if MOU is there, even you will get that large scale data also clear. So, the another side, I mean, this is again the same thing. We have suggested certain kind of measures, like here, the rope net only to hold the upper mass and not doing anything down inside, and then in down inside doing the kind of some retaining structure design we have done. It was unfortunately not done. As a result, the slide has happened, people have killed, and there was blockade on the highway around 40 vehicles. I'll mention here a small point. This is also in SP 45, field road manual. This particular dump drive from retaining structure. So you might have seen it. This was way back in 1984, created in Kailasur landslide. And for 1984 to around 15 years, this slide did not happen. Now the reasoning is sure. It is not that the slide had stopped. No, it did not stop, but road did not block. And the reason was that the practice of cutting uphill side was stopped because this was a drum retaining wall. And if you cut a drum, it would create a problem. So this is Amrinder ji, one of the important aspect of our design for preventing those 17 areas in Mumbai-Pune Expressway. And I mean, it is 2003 to, you can say now it is 20 years, around 20 years, except very minor problems, nothing much has happened. So, and now the vehicle are moving 120 and plus speeds there, so without much of the incident, except sporadic sometime because of the maintenance. It is very important when you implement the measures, it requires to be maintained. This is also another lagging point. Maybe we'll talk about, we have some case study of monitoring and then telling that how, because of the lack of monitoring, we could use the better. So this, you can see here very nicely the rope net and chain link mesh, the combination of that and vegetation was implemented, and even in the rock store, all things were very successful. These are some areas of northeastern regions where huge landslide over there, and this was given. Now I'll talk because this you are well versed with the this Kalka Parmanu highway. I mean, this is NHAI, isn't it? And then Parmanu to Solan also yours. I was fortunately involved in both projects. So in Parmanu to Solan, fortunately, whatever remedial measures we have given, they have implemented due to. Maybe I heard that they have been at loss because of those things or many other things. But as you already traveled there, from Kalka to Parmanu, it's an excellent highway, very nicely maintained. So that is one example of, we always say that don't ever implement the isolated, the scheme of remedial measure in isolation. Means if I give 5 measures or 4 measures, you have to implement all those together. If you implement one and leave 2 behind, it will not be helpful. Now, in some areas it is so all these areas which we have to run, I am not telling you which retaining wall and which road letter. This point of specification depends on the kind of show. But all these have been implemented, prevented and monitored, and we are still monitoring those kind of measures which we have to run. I'll not go into things. Now I'm finishing. I'm only telling which is very relevant in front of the madam. This is the conclusion. that NHAI, I already told, I think, about that. We have very excellent engineering fraternities, but we probably require to kind of mix with the expertise, particularly during maybe DPR preparation, to tell the people who are preparing the DPR that this expertise has to be utilized for this purpose. We have to make it sure that DPR has, as I already told, these are the concluding remarks. DPR should have the against donation, sustainability or risk assessment. They are synonym terms. Without fail, these should be. Then only sustainable hygiene can be. Use of modern technology, as already been discussed here, which is cost and quality factor, and outcome will no doubt be better. Slope management should be part of one infrastructure. I have already offered to Madam, if you require, I can give few things to write about it. This should be a part of what the learning. I really request if it is possible. This should be matching with the investigation outcome. Many a times, it is very important aspect. Many a time, you also realize probably that investigation outcome and design doesn't have any link. Particularly, I have seen the DPRs wherein, I mean, we are in close NHAI door, so I can speak many things, isn't it? That the geological background and the maps are 20 years back, 30 years back are imposed in the DPR. For a background may be good, but when you are not utilizing any geological input for design, are you? Not at all. Because that kind of input which is required to be given is not given in the DPR. For the, as a pace setter example, this will be rather a pace setter example for the country also. So with that, I'm sorry for bothering you.